My name is Corey Nenno, and I am presenting today on the cyber threat intelligence process. I am representing VetSec here today at VetSecCon 24. I'm super excited to be here, and I'll be talking about the cyber threat intelligence process and everything that there is to know about CTI from novice to expert. And we're going to get into the nitty-gritty details of my own personal take on the cyber threat intelligence process. It's going to be a little bit different than what you might have seen before, and you're going to see why. So I'm really excited to get into you. And like I said, my name's Corey. I've been with a VetSec for a very long time, and I want to share this with you. So I'm super excited to be here. Big shout out to VetSec, Tom, and everyone over at VetSec. Appreciate you having me. So let's get into it. Now we're looking at report types and how we produce them. We will be talking about report types and where they're involved, but not necessarily production, and I'll get into why. All right, quick overview of the agenda. I'm going to do a disclosure because that is a very popular thing to do nowadays, to make sure that if you are or have any social media presence whatsoever, that you recognize that you are representative of all the things that you may work for, companies, things like that. So we're going to go over a bit of a disclosure. We're going to talk about me just a little bit, give you a little bit more background so you can understand where I'm coming from, how I came up with my own cyber threat intelligence process, as well as, how I integrate with other tools, with other teams, things like that, and why I'm so passionate about it. We're also going to get into a little bit of understanding of the cyber threat intelligence as a whole, the CTI. Like over the past several years, we have seen massive growth in cyber threat intelligence, and that's fantastic. It needs to happen, and I'm so excited to have gotten in on it early so that I can help share that and grow that community as a whole, which is fantastic because so many people have been asking me about, like, how do I break into cyber threat intelligence? What do I need to do? And honestly, I will have the answers for you today. So we will get into that. We will also get into a bit of the layman's terms, understanding of core concepts. So don't think this is exclusively for novices, but I want to make sure that everyone is on the same page. So we're going to start, mile wide, 1 inch deep, and then we're going to get into the more nitty gritty stuff down the line. We're also going to talk about the future of CTI. What is going on? Where are we driving towards? What is all being involved? How are we growing, both in terms of people, in terms of capabilities, and things like automation and AI. We're going to get into that as well. Leaders, this is like the number one biggest hot topic of discussion. Why do I need it? What does it do? Like, how do I incorporate it into my organization? How do I answer those driving questions about CTI? How do I justify CTI? How do I explain it to executives that may not have a technical background, or to those that do have a technical background, know what it is, and may have some confusion about those types of subject areas? We're going to get into that. We're going to answer those questions and talk about why cyber threat is becoming more and more important in every level of organization, from small to medium businesses to large global enterprises. We're also going to be talking about transitioning to cyber threat intelligence. And I know this has been a number one topic for so many of the people that I talk to, but also like mentees that I work with. I try to give back to the community whenever I can. And their number one question is, when they come to me and they see that I have years of experience in threat intelligence, how do I break into it? Because there is this like almost vision of what CTI is as this whole niche area of cybersecurity. It is niche, but it's not as difficult to get into as you might think. There are ways of going about it, and I have one way, and I think you might like it because it lowers the bar of entry so that we can get more fresh, new ideas in, bring in more people, men, women, everyone from across the spectrum, so that they can get into cyber threat intelligence, because I'm extremely passionate about it, and I know it's driving the future of cybersecurity. And of course, a classy outro. We'll make sure to grab everybody's questions as we go. Sound good? Awesome. Thank you so much again for being here. So let's get into it. Disclosure. Number one thing to say. I love my job and where I work, But it is important to recognize that all my thoughts are my own. I have been in the military. I have worked in private sector. I have worked in government. I have worked with government agencies. I have talked to people from all around the world. And it is important to understand that there is individual differences. Now, I'm not going to say anything crazy, but it is important to know that I have unique takes based on my experiences, and I want to share those with you in hopes that not only does it drive your understanding of CTI, but that you see that the individual differences are what drive CTI. So I'll always be respectful and professional, but I wanted to make sure that it is not necessarily representative of my current organization, Marriott International, who I love. Next, I'm not sponsored. I'm going to be very clear about this because there are so many frameworks, processes, tools, platforms, databases. There are so many different security tools, not just within cybersecurity, even within CTI. People think that CTI is this brand new thing. It's not. And there are so many amazing tools and capabilities, so many different companies working within the space. It's important to recognize them, but it's also important to recognize I'm going to talk about them, but I'm not being paid by anyone. So if it sounds like I have a lean towards one or the other, I promise you I don't. And we'll get into that. Questions, comments, concerns, whatever you got, lay it on me. Lay it up in the chat. I'm keeping an eye on chat. So please feel free to bring up your questions. I'm lonely up here on the stage. If you have something you want to ask me or talk about, absolutely bring it up. We will dive into it as we go. I promise I am watching the chat. So that is my disclosure. Hope everyone's okay with that. Let's get into about me. So like I said, my name's Corey Nenno. I have been in IT and cybersecurity. If you had combined all of my crossover years, I'm closing in on like 15 years of total experience, but direct experience, linearly 12 years. 12 years also as a veteran. So I did 9 years active duty military, Army. Don't hold that against me. Go Army, beat Navy. And then 3 years of National Guard duty as well. So I wanted to continue on my service for a little bit. So I worked with a CPT in my local area, and that was a lot of fun too. So 12 years total time, military experience. I officially transitioned from the military active duty side of the house in 2020, 2021. And we'll get into that. I transitioned again from National Guard just this past April. I really wanted to focus in on family. The biggest reason for my transition was family. That is, for me, the most important thing in my life. I had dragged my wife and kids and my dogs around the world, and it, was starting to take a toll. It wasn't that I didn't love being in the military. I absolutely loved being in the military. I learned so much. Many of my certifications, my education, my background was driven by my opportunities that I had in the military. So I'm forever grateful for that. But there comes a time when the wife says, I am so tired of you deploying off somewhere or going to do something crazy or a crazy turnaround. You have all this experience. Can we give transitioning to, the private sector a shot? And I'd love to move home to my home state of Wisconsin. Can we do that? And I said, let's give it a shot. So we did. I have 11 certifications. I think I probably have more, but those are the ones that I remember, including, CISSP, a ton of SANS certs. I'm working on my master's from SANS right now. Big supporter of SANS. My dream is to one day potentially teach a course at SANS. So if you're a SANS recruiter out there, just hit me up. I love SANS, huge SANS, but there's a lot of great companies and organizations, universities. I have a lot of friends that go to Western Governors. Western Governors is also phenomenal. There's programs over at Syracuse that I have friends that have done a lot of experience in. Harvard also offers a lot of free programs. So there's a lot of education opportunities. I'm currently with SANS. I love it a lot, not only because I am working on my master's, but every time I pass a course, I get a new certification. That to me feels like cheating. That to me feels like double dipping, but I'm happy for it. I like it. So go check out those programs if you're interested in them. That's definitely the way to go if you can, especially if you're military, using those education benefits. I'm essentially doing it for free. So that is a huge win. my background. So I have held probably every IT position you could possibly have. I got my start in 2012. I was a 25 Sierra, so that's satellite communications. But more specifically, I worked on the operating systems and security on the back end of a lot of SATCOM systems. And that's where I like to say I got my passion for cybersecurity. Because I had to do a lot of patch updates, working on routers, switches, firewalls. I had to work with a lot of both Windows and Linux on the back end, because a lot of those systems are driven by Linux for those if you know type situation with SATCOM. And when cyber blew up for the Army and got really, really popular, everyone knows around 2016 timeframe, I saw that opportunity and I transitioned to the MOS known as 17 Charlie, Cyber Warfare Operations. And that's where I really made a name for myself. Took everything that I knew about IT infrastructure and the basics of security, and I went head deep into cyber operations with the 17 series. And that was fantastic. And I loved it. And I did that all the way until I transitioned this past April. So 17 series for the rest of the time. Absolutely loved it. But that does mean I've done security operations. I've done threat hunting. I've done security architecture. I've had to stand up my own SecOnion. I don't know how many times. Threat intelligence. A big thing in the military, or at least it used to be. It's gotten a lot better. So I'm going to go from past to present. A big thing that I found that inspired me when I transitioned was in the military, I saw this situation, which was military intelligence and security operations, the 17s, the 25 series, and this lack of useful collaboration between the two. It was hard because you had super technical people on one side. They want to know the IOCs. They want to know the TTPs. They want to know what threat actors are operating in the Pacific, in Asia, all around the globe. And they want the technical details so that when they go out and they're facing off against threat actors or potential foreign governments, things like that, that they know who's operating in that area, what they're doing, the tools and capabilities that they're using. Then on the other side, you have the military intelligence. They know the who, but they can't always describe those technical things that the IT people and the security people need. But they know all the who, and they have the understanding of the threat, the intel cycle and the intel board. They drive that intelligence cycle, and they're getting that information. But how do we get it from them to the tools and the people that need it most? That's where I came up with the cyber threat intelligence process. And that will be more clearly laid out later on, how it's different from a lot of other frameworks and processes you might have seen. I've also worked in vulnerability management, driven policies. I've written a ton of papers, a little bit of DevOps, a little bit of programming, and then leadership. I ended my time by managing a CPT, multi-domain task force group work, working and overseeing numbers of individuals working across both EW and cyber. My current role, I am a senior manager over at Marriott International, specifically with the Global Information Security Tower. That means I work primarily with cyber and cyber teams with an emphasis on the threat intelligence team. That's my home. Shout out to any homies from Marriott International that hopefully made it over here. I hope you did. And I appreciate you guys so, so much. You guys have helped me understand both myself and our work so much better. And I'm so excited about the work that we do over there. So shout out to those guys. I am married. I am 38. I have two boys, two beautiful boys, married to my beautiful wife, Melanie. Oh my God, don't quiz me. 12 years, because when I joined the military, I got married, but it's not like that. It's not like that. Okay. But Yeah, 12 years married, and I have two beautiful huskies as well. The goofball on the right is Katana with her tongue sticking out, and the white one that you can kind of see on the ground rolled over is Elsa. Didn't get to name her, funny story. We rolled up to a massive husky adoption family, and these two little girls brought Elsa out, and she's this little white pup with blue eyes. And what was popular at the time? Frozen. And she's like, "This is Elsa." And I'm like, "I guess her name's Elsa. Let's go." So yeah, married, two boys, two huskies. In my free time, I do a lot of physical fitness. I'm very passionate about physical fitness. I try to keep up on a lot of cybersecurity. I do a lot of mentorships, obviously with VetSec. That is why we're here. So I love doing that. Shout out to anybody that has mentored me. Thank you so much. There's been so many of you, especially John, so many of you guys out there that have, and gals, have helped me get to where I am. So huge thanks to VetSec, because they brought me to where I am. And I couldn't be more prouder to be here and speak on their behalf. And I'm fully remote work from home. I have been since I transitioned from active duty military. It is the only way to live. Some people have a difficult time with transitioning to fully remote. I encourage you to give it a try if you aren't already. It is, in my opinion, is fantastic. You have, coming from someone who traveled around the world, has lived in, I think, 9 different places, been overseas multiple times. Like, being away from home and being away from family is the hardest thing that you do. It's the hardest thing within the military. Now I live, it's pros and cons, right? Now I am home. I am never missing another day in my family's life ever again. Still, I travel every once in a while for work, but it's much more reasonable. It's turn and burns. It's far more reasonable to be able to, like, okay, I'm going away for a couple of days to go check out the headquarters or go do a collaborative meeting. See in like 2 days. So much more easy to manage when I'm here, every day, living with them, helping them. Like, that has been fantastic. So I always am a huge supporter of fully remote opportunities. And I'm so happy to see that we were able to keep fully remote opportunities across all cybersecurity and IT opportunities. So if you see them, always try to go for them. They tend to be a bit more competitive because you are competing against potentially the nation or the globe for that opportunities. That's why you always see, like, LinkedIn opportunities. 100 people have already applied. This is absolutely true because they can, depending on where they live, that's that opportunity. But always apply if you think you are within even the realm. They say if you even have 50% of the qualifications, you should at least give it a shot. If you have greater than 70, you're probably a shoo-in. Give it a shot, because fully remote, especially if you have a family, or especially if you like really love building and working in tech, being fully remote is absolutely the way to go. Cannot stress that enough. But yeah, enough about me. Let's get into more of that cyber threat intelligence process I promised you. People who can't work from home are the exact people who work from home. I'm trying to avoid, not going to touch that one, but going from very novice to very understandable layman's terms, what is cyber threat intelligence? It's the process of gathering, analyzing, applying information from all sorts of cyber events from around the world and applying it to your current organization's security posture. So we're taking in everything that we possibly can, whether it be new CVEs, new vulnerabilities, new exploits that are out in the wild, or it's a major cybersecurity event like, and I'm going to warn you, this is a scary word for a lot of people, Log4j. If it's like a Log4j type incident where it's all hands on deck, there are threat actors going after a particular vulnerability. We need all the intelligence that we can get. We're bringing in all of this information, both through automated and manual processes, in order to inform not only stakeholders, not only leadership, but customers as well. That's what we're doing. We're bringing in all of this information to protect people. But we're also trying to do it to understand the motives. There are so many different threat actors around the globe that are operating 20. We've talked about this for probably 2 years, and I cannot remember the first person who said it. I was amongst one of the first few people who said this. These threat actors and these, threat actor groups, it's a business now. These are full-fledged businesses. They have PTO. They have hourly and salary wages. They have benefits and bonuses. They have working hours and working conditions. They have, if you read some of the letters, especially like the ransomware letters or the letters that they put, yeah, they have HR departments too. Absolutely right. They put out these letters and they must drop it in ChatGPT or some other AI tool and say, make this sound more, professional. Because they're like, oh, oopsie, your organization has been ransomed. Gosh darn, let's work together to solve this solution. And I'm like, what's happening here? What is going on? You attacked me. This isn't a collaboration. But yeah, that ransomware as a service is absolutely rampant. And ransomware as a service came first. And then that was like the pivotal moment where we were like, these are businesses. These aren't just like hackers in hoodies anymore, like hiding in basements. These are full-fledged businesses with business models and business practices. They have collaborative efforts between other threat actors. They have threat actors that are on their own blacklists that they refuse to work with. Some, like Lockbit, don't like to work with a lot of other people. They only like to work with their own type of people. And there are other groups that are very collaborative that work across multiple threat actors. It's so interesting to see the diversity amongst threat actors. But that's what we mean to say. We have to understand their tactics, their motives, their tools and capabilities, as well as their victims, who they're targeting, why they're going after them, things like that. Now, this is a really interesting point that I want to drive home because I often think that there is some confusion about cyber threat intelligence. It is both proactive and reactive defensive understandings of what's going on the cyber threat landscape. That is so important to understand because not only are we constantly reacting to events that are happening on a global scale, we are driving to understand what's happening and react to them so that we can avoid potentialities within our own organizations, right? So we are reacting to what's happening and driving that intelligence capabilities, that threat intelligence capabilities that we need to do. But we're also extremely proactive. We are the most proactive out of all of the overarching disciplines within cybersecurity. We drive the functionality. We are the first line of we're the scouts. I didn't say we're Cav scouts, but we're scouts. We go out into the dark web and the deep web. We find what's going on in the world and we bring it back to our organizations to increase security posture, to inform leadership, and to inform our customers. Because as always, and as like Marriott International likes to say, we are people first. We are people first. That's extremely important. So we provide both proactive and reactive defensive capabilities and insights to drive not only security measures, but inform risk management strategies. We're going to get more into that. But it's not just about, can this feed into this tool? Can we enrich all of this information so that our security tool can do all of this alarming and alerting and detections? We do that, but it's so much more than that. A fantastic cyber threat intelligence program is also driving threat management and risk management strategies. And we're going to get into that. That's okay. You don't want to be a cascot anyway. More words, not mine. I will take you for that. But yes, that is what we're about with CTI. I dropped a couple of images of organizations that operate within the space. Again, not sponsored, but we're going to get into some of them. Obviously, MITRE ATT&CK is one of the biggest ones out there in terms of understanding, TTPs and frameworks and things like that. MISP and OpenCTI, there's a number of what we call cyber threat intelligence platforms or databases. We're going to get into that, I promise. Recorded Future and Flashpoint are just a few, just two of the many proprietary threat intelligence feeds and sources that can help you leverage the intel that is going on not only a global scale, but on the deep and dark web to help protect your organizations. But like I said, we'll get more into that. But those are just a few that I have direct experience with. Again, not sponsored. Now we have a full-fledged Cav Scout discussion going on in chat. I love it. Can't get hacked if you have 100% attack coverage. We'll see about that. Compliance does not equal security. Agree for the most part, but feel free to elaborate further, and we'll get into that as well. So again, a number of organizations out there operate within this space, whether they do threat intelligence, whether they have threat security tools, whether they feed and ingest data to other tools. There's a number of different organizations that operate within this space. So a lot of great opportunities too. We're going to talk more about that. But the key point is there's so much out there. You need to go experience these tools for yourself wherever possible. One benefit that I had with being in the military is when I would go to cyber operation exercises, I often got to test a lot of the tools as they were coming out, as they were being developed. I got to test Carbon Black extremely early. I got to test Attack IQ extremely early. It was fantastic. Getting those opportunities to use a variety of tools helps you not only be, more open to using different tools and capabilities, but understanding the differences between open source intelligence versus proprietary intelligence, and the differences, the benefits, and the cons to each. The more secure your stuff is, the easier it is to DDoS it and cause it to crash. You're welcome to nightmares. Oh my God. But it is true. A lot of times you'll find that too many tools can also be overwhelming to your system. You definitely don't want to have too many tools, but that's why I say try to experience as many as you can in safe development environments or in safe training exercises or tabletop exercises, things like that. The more training opportunities that you can get to try out things, then you can say, all right, I like this tool over this tool. And then you take that information back to your organization and you tell them why. We drive the security acquisition process. Honestly, cyber threat intelligence drives the security tool acquisition process. We help get out there to say, all right, this tool is bunk or this tool is fantastic and here's why. That is one thing that I love doing about operating in this space, is because I have that experience, but there's so many great tools out and so many people have different opinions on said tools. So it's important to experience them for yourselves. What's the line about paranoia and ease of use? If it's too easy, it's too good to be true. You talking about that one? So how do we do CTI? How do we do cyber threat intelligence? How do we get after it? What are we doing in this space that drives everything that we know about cybersecurity? The number one thing that a lot of people know about are the platforms and databases that we operate with. And that is things like MISP, OpenCTI, Anomaly, things with CrowdStrike, IBM, Mandiant, and Google, RiskIQ, TrueStar, all of these sort of platforms and databases that we integrate with one another in order to get open source threat intelligence, proprietary threat intelligence, deep and dark web intelligence, so that we can understand what's going on the cyber threat landscape. So tools, capabilities, obviously are a significant aspect of cyber threat intelligence. Having the right tools and capabilities can also be extremely expensive. It can be really expensive, and it swaps. It constantly changes, like for who's top dog, who is operating the best, who do we like, who do we not like. So getting out and experiencing all of those tools and how they integrate with one another is extremely important. Ingestion. So we've talked a little bit about this already. One of the main things that we do is we drive the collection, management, and ingestion of threat intelligence, both automated and manual, in order to correlate that intelligence to everything that we're doing. And in the end, it is designed to protect people. We're protecting, organizations, we're protecting databases, we're protecting infrastructure. But at the end of the day, it's to protect the people. Oh, Threat Connect. That's another one. I forgot about Threat Connect. Yeah. I was trying to grab a bunch of pictures last week that I could throw on here, but Threat Connect is another great one too. But yeah, if you have other ones, drop them. Chat. Michael is what we call what the cool kids call. He may or may not be a troll, but that's okay. We still love Michael. Oh wait, is that legit? No shot, that's legit. I'm not clicking that. Don't click. I'm not clicking that link. Someone else can click that link and tell me if that's legit. It's real? I might have to click that link later. If we have time later today, I'll click the link. Someone else click the link. Someone else click the link first. I'm not clicking anything from Michael. I didn't click the link. There are so many. So like funny story. One of the things that a lot of organizations do is they'll have their own sort of like threat intelligence and like red team, purple team integrations where we come up. Like you'll hear a lot about something called the social engineering toolkit, where you can create like hilarious emails and websites and things like that. But they'll have these programs to do social engineering campaigns to try to test employees. And then you have to find them. You have to click report phishing specifically in order to get points and win the game. Are you winning the game? Are you winning, son? Are you winning the game? That's what's important. So winning the game, but you have to some of these emails are hilarious. And then you have to report the phishing. So you have to make sure you're not clicking anything in the page. It's a whole thing. But threat intelligence also works with red team and purple team. We often collaborate on social engineering campaigns and phishing campaigns within organizations to test employees so that we know you're actually understanding the emails that you get and you're not just clicking all the links. All right. Integration. Back to the topic at hand. The ingestion of intel, we've covered that, but the integration portion is also extremely important, and we're going to get into why. But it's important to understand that threat feeds alone and intel sources alone they just tell you and me what's happening. That doesn't really do a whole lot. It's good to know, and I'm happy to have all of the information. I love just getting a ton of it. I need to be in the know. I am addicted to knowing everything possible when it comes to threat actors, TTPs. Like being in the know is so important, but just being in the know is not enough. You have to be able to act. You have to be able to collaborate and act on threat feeds, on intel sources. How do we do that? Through automation and collaboration to security tools. That is one of the most important technical aspects of CTI. Once you have all this data, you need to find a way to get it to your security tools. Automation through APIs and through connectors is how we take that data, that threat intelligence. Once we have enriched it and brought it to the best level that we feel possible, we bring it over to our tools in order to create new alarms, new alerting, new detections, so we can empower SOC, CERT, threat hunt, vulnerability management, and leadership about what is going on in our environments. So integration is how we show the strength of CTI. And we do that through empowering security tools. And then finally, we are, at the end of the day, the mixed breed. We are the sons and daughters of cybersecurity and intelligence. We come together in order to deliver both technical, operational, and strategic reporting on what is going on in these environments and in the globe and in the cyber threat landscape. That's what's important. We deliver these reports in order to drive not only the discussion, but to support those security tools and help leaders make the most informed decisions about what tools, what software are we using, what type of remote capabilities do we want to use for our employees, what type of firewalls do we want to use, what works in what country or infrastructure versus another. Cloud is a massive thing now. Understanding where we are on the globe and how threat actors might gain access to that cloud infrastructure is important. So delivering reports, delivering products as a whole is extremely important to understanding how we do CTI. Reporting at the end of the day is always going to be, a semi-manual process, but still extremely important in how we drive cyber threat intelligence. We give it to everyone. You see a number of companies every day, they produce fantastic products that talk about the latest cybersecurity events, the latest vulnerabilities, the latest threat actors, and they make it available to everyone in the world so that we understand what's going on in the threat landscape. That is what we do. That is cyber threat intelligence. Micah, what is the frameworks that support us? So a lot of people talk about a lot of models and processes and frameworks that drive our overall analysis. So what are some of them? The biggest three, and MITRE ATT&CK is on the next page and you'll understand why. The biggest three that you'll hear most often is the cyber kill chain, the diamond model, and the MITRE ATT&CK framework. Now, the cyber kill chain is much more broad because it applies to IR, it applies to purple and red teaming and things like that. It applies to incident response in SOC and CERT and things like that. But it also applies to threat intelligence because we have to understand every step of what's going on. We have to understand what is happening at each point in a very detailed way. That's what's so important. We are the ones that have to explain it to varying levels of both other teams that we collaborate with, leadership, and customers. If someone suffers a cyber attack, we're the ones that are breaking down both the technical, the operational, and the strategic details about what happened. And the cyber kill chain provides the most direct explanation of what happened and why. The diamond model of intrusion analysis is, make sure we say Lockheed Martin. Again, not sponsored Lockheed Martin, but Lockheed Martin is one of the organizations. SANS is another organization that has worked on and developed the intrusion kill chain and the cyber kill chain. The diamond model of intrusion analysis, so the one in the bottom left corner of your screen. This is where we actually talk about the specific movements that are occurring and why. So you have the adversary, you have the infrastructure that they use and that the victim has. You have the TTPs and capabilities. So what are they throwing at us? How is it deployed? What is it doing? And then we have the victim, whether it be a person or an organization. So the adversaries, you're talking about all the big threat actors, right? What are they doing? Why are they doing it? Who are they targeting? Who are they? Where do they operate out of? Things like that. Then you have the infrastructure. They have to operate somewhere. Yeah, okay. You said you're going to say the cloud. Okay, where in the cloud? What are they doing? And when we break out of the cloud, if we can track them back to certain nation states, potentially, who are they? Are they supported by that nation state or not? Are they rogue? Are they mostly financial based and financially driven? Things like that. TTPs and capabilities. So what software do they use? What tools and capabilities? Do they like, operating within Linux more so than Windows? What are they doing and how do they do it? And then finally, the victims. And it isn't just from a technical standpoint, which I think a lot of people get hung up on when we talk about the diamond model. It's also like, what geopolitical space do they live in? What country of origin? How is the supply chain affected? What languages do they speak? Why were they targeted over somebody else? You know? So all of these things are extremely important in how we do CTI, because it's how we explain CTI to our audiences. And then, of course, you have the number one, the only MITRE ATT&CK framework. So big, it needed its own slide, massive in scale, has techniques, tactics, covers procedures, covers everything. Eyeball chart. Exactly. But it's only there for referencing and understanding because it's so massive in scale. But I encourage you, if you have not experienced it yet, go over to the MITRE ATT&CK Framework Enterprise Edition, play around. It breaks out every single tactic and technique. You can get into the nitty-gritty of everything that is happening. And not only that, if you are red team and purple team, and you're operating in a space where you're trying to plan how you want to effectively showcase, vulnerabilities within your organization or ways to exploit your organization, you're using MITRE ATT&CK. Like, it's a given. It's a given. So those three are the basis of how we do the things. We need models and frameworks in order to best explain the things that we do. That's what's most important, is doing it in a way so that not only the technical people understand what's happening, but also the leaderships and customers. How do we integrate? Now, we've talked a little bit about this so far. Platforms and databases. Those are going to be the biggest things. Platforms and databases. We have to integrate everything that we do. It has to be contained somewhere. We have to have these databases and these platforms to contain all of our information, all of our threat intelligence, and then find ways of driving that to other things. One thing we didn't talk about, ticketing, services, IT, as well as SOC and NOC. You want to be able to inform all groups, if necessary, what your threat intelligence provides. I've experienced a number of ticketing tools. Some play well with others, some do not. I will not name names. Finding ways to integrate your threat intelligence, not just to security tools, but to other platforms and capabilities like your ticketing services, is how you reach your audiences. If your threat intelligence is sitting in a database or a platform somewhere, and your security teams or your leadership, like, they can access it, they're not going to access it. They're not going to go there, without a reason to. You have to drive that reason. You have to showcase not only the metrics, but the use cases. Why is it important to connect back? And if you can get them to your platforms, heck, give them their own dashboard, fantastic. Because now you have them living in your world, understanding the issues at hand in the cyber threat landscape. That's how we do that. But we also do it for the alarms, the alerts, and the detections. We want them to be informed as possible. We want that threat intelligence to get to those security tools. Once they're there, how do we do it? How do we integrate so that they can potentially create, through automation, alarms, alerts, and detections? Your security teams should not be responsible solely for creating every single alarm. That's wild in 2024. You got to have automation that drives alerting. You can fine tune it. I'll never say automate yourself out of a job. You don't want to do that, because automation gets you to your security tools, but you're still going to need security engineers in order to refine those alarms, those alerts. But it makes it so much easier, so much easier if your security tools are empowered through integration from your threat feeds. has to happen. Another cool part about these frameworks is they're not exclusive. You can combine them. For example, using attack TTPs within the diamond model and descriptions of the capabilities, absolutely. 100% agree. So jumping back really quick, he's talking about how do we do CTI, right? You're never pigeonholed into using just one. You're constantly using, more than likely, all three. That is so important because it allows you the flexibility to pick what we're talking about. Not every single cyber attack is going to hit every step of the kill chain, or this. Not every attack is, show me an attack that does every block, and I'm pretty sure your computer will crash. I'm sure supercomputers would crash, dang near. But you're combining all of these models and frameworks in order to inform your varying audiences of what's going on. So fantastic point, James. Appreciate you. Your beard is awesome. Brother, I grew this in a day. I don't know what you mean by that. All right. Getting away from chat and back on topic. The three disciplines. We're almost done with the novice to expert portion of our talk here. The three disciplines. Thank you, Fortinet, for the picture. I took it from you. But the three disciplines: strategic, tactical, operational. Not sure why they put it in that order. That's their call. But typically I start with tactical, you move to operational, you move to strategic, and back and forth throughout the cycle. But we'll get into that why. And thanks to Fortinet for the sponsorship. We love Fortinet here. If you don't know, Fortinet offers a lot of opportunities to VetSec. Go check them out. There's lots of free trainings that are available to you through VetSec, thanks to Fortinet. So huge shout out to Fortinet for what they do. Like, actually sponsored this time. Caught in 4K. My bad. But yeah, absolutely agree. I would change the order of this though. That's how you know I'm not sponsored. All right, the three disciplines. Let's get into it. Tactical, operational, strategic. The big hitters. Now, a lot of people often think that when you are operating in CTI, you are locked into one of these roles. And that's not necessarily true. You could be. You could say, all right, I am the tactical cyber threat intelligence analyst, or I am the operational cyber threat intelligence analyst, or the strategic cyber threat intelligence analyst. And that's fine. But a lot of the times you'll also find that teams that are extremely collaborative ebb and flow between the various disciplines. This isn't one of the scenarios where you don't need to be so locked in because you're worried about job roles. This is more so about collaboration and support, because tactical may be overwhelming for your organization, or strategic may be overwhelming, or even operational if you have a lot of operations and you have a lot of threat actors to worry about. So let's get into all three. Number one, tactical. The technical powerhouses of CTI. You're focusing in on IOCs, TTPs, the threat actors themselves, and the daily incidences on a global scale. You are the number one reporters of, when the latest exploit has dropped, when the latest vulnerability has been affecting a particular piece of software. You're also oftentimes the number one go-to support to your incident management, your vulnerability management teams, things like that. They want to be able to know that you know what is going on in the cyber threat landscape. You are the forefront. You are the tactical front observer. Operational. We're talking about focusing really in depth on those threat actors, the campaigns on a global scale. Who's operating in what countries, where and why? Who's operating in what regions, where and why? Who's operating in a given area or sector of a particular business? Is it travel? Is it aviation? Is it energy? Is it food and agriculture? Is it any number? Is it technical? Is it IT based? What are they doing and why? You'll also provide a lot of support to security teams to protect your operations. So if I'm studying how SCADA and ICS are being affected by the latest campaign, operations, factories, plants for my company are going to want to know how to protect themselves from these types of cyber attacks. I need to know, as the operational CTI analyst, like what they need to know to protect their software and their operations. That's what I'm doing. And then with strategic, you are the powerhouse of informing from a business forward perspective. And not only just business forward, but geopolitical impacts to supply chain, things like that. How threat intelligence might impact your organization from a business perspective coming from that cyber threat intelligence observation. You are the direct line to leadership and support. Oftentimes, you are the unsung heroes. You've probably made a PowerPoint or report that was then given to a VP or CISO or board member that was then delivered to the globe. I hope you got recognition for it, but more so, you're probably the unsung hero. But the pride in your work is what drives your desire to support your organization. You're out there showcasing how it affects the businesses on a global scale. That is strategic cyber threat intelligence. That is so important to every team. But like I said, the ebb and flow is much more realized within cyber threat intelligence. You're able to do one of others as you go on. Right now, I flex more so between tactical and strategic. However, I have operated in the operational space and I've had people do similar things. Question from the chat. Which of those three do you think would concern a threat intelligence analyst working for health service executives, preferably from a government perspective, government job? So that is a great question. That is actually a tough question to answer because of all of the different areas that affect healthcare. Again, you're going to see all three. For me personally, my answer would be operational, because healthcare is such an important sector of business and around the globe. And not just from a business standpoint, you're helping people survive. You need to know what type of attacks are affecting your sector a lot, like so much more so than maybe always being up to date on the IOCs or always being ready to deliver a complex a report to leadership. You need to know, and you need to be in touch. And this is where it gets important. You need to be in touch with those operation teams so that they can react when operations fail. And that's the hardest, because when operations fail, lives are lost. And that is the worst situation that you can be in. When healthcare is affected, operations have to continue. I didn't mean to get so deep there. I apologize. But good question. Thank you so much, Perik. Sorry if I butchered your name, but fantastic question for that perspective. But honestly, though, you're going to still want all three at the end of the day. You're going to need all three because they all work both collaboratively within the team, but they all drive unique things out of the team. And we'll get more into that. But each of the disciplines has a primary function. Like I said, tactical, incident response management, support to these teams, driving the incident understanding, both from a technical perspective and to the security tools. Operational, understanding those threat actors, understanding those campaigns, support to operations, potentially on a global scale, depending on who you work for. And then strategic, reporting and driving the understanding of how it affects the business. Things like supply chain has become more important now more than ever. Giving you a phenomenal example of this, I had to take a massive shift in what I did when the Russia-Ukraine war started. We had to immediately start looking at what was affecting everything from a geopolitical standpoint on a global scale, because two countries were at war. And it massively, more so than I think people still realize today, affected supply chains. At the time, I was working with a food and agriculture company, and we had to immediately shift gears into reporting on trains, plants, shipping routes, all of these types of things, because the strategic motivations and impacts to our organization were so high because of cyber attacks, as well as physical real world attacks going on because of that war. So strategic oftentimes might end up being extremely important for your organization, or it might be, more important to reporting mechanisms. That depends. Tactical, going on a completely opposite spectrum. Tactical, you're talking about that horrific word. I will bring it up one more time, and if you're faint of heart, I'm giving you advance notice to plug your ears. Log4j. When Log4j dropped, I had to take another massive shift, dive deep into vulnerability management, look at threat actors that were creating unique 0 days, dropping them within less than a week, more like 48 hours or less, or they had them in the back burner waiting to go and waited until the very last moment to drop a 0 day that affected your logs. That is what tactical is about. Shifting deep into the technical components, understanding that it may affect a lot of things going on in your company, but you need to know those technical components. That is what's so important when it comes to tactical cyber threat intelligence. Supply chain third-party compromise is such a huge impact for organizations. It should be top priority. It absolutely is. And that's where we often try to focus. That is what I find drives a lot of the important discussions, but it falls most in the category of strategic. And that's the biggest takeaway I want you to understand here is with supply chain and third-party compromise. I do that now for Marriott, working with my team. We are looking at how that affects, all of Marriott's brands, for example, or how it affects people that other organizations, like other third parties that we're not related to, if they have suffered a cybersecurity incident, like what's going on there and why. And then the supply chain, understanding that, like, if a hotel was attacked, does it affect other hotel chains? Does it affect other products and tools and software? Things like that. And then this is what's really important. It's called the upstream and downstream of supply chain. So you not only have to worry about upstream, meaning, this plant, let's say, was attacked by a ransomware and it's shut down. Okay. What network, what infrastructure, what cloud or direct connections do we have to that plant? Can it move upstream back to the business proper? Can it move laterally to other plants? And can it move down to customers? And that in itself is one of the most terrifying things in the world. When a cyber incident occurs at an organization and it moves downstream to customers. SolarWinds is a great example of that. Microsoft constantly, like, that is a situation that is extremely terrifying. And from a strategic perspective, you not only have to be thinking about how do we recover? What is our disaster recovery plan? What are we reporting? How do we report it? When do we report it? You also have to have this understanding that you're reporting to customers that are being affected and how. So crucial. You might also have to worry about what isn't connected because customers or vendors might try to switch. Yes, PR, public relations and media relations is so huge. It is massive when it comes to strategic cyber threat intelligence. Because, yes, okay, SolarWinds was affected, Microsoft has been affected, many companies have been affected. How do we recover? How do we announce the situation? And how do we recover? Not only from a technical standpoint and operational standpoint, but from a public relations standpoint, how do we be honest and truthful while also making efforts to secure ourselves and our customers. And that is like such a huge thing that's going on right now. So huge. And you need to make sure you're doing it honestly. You need to, because it's going to be very clear very quickly if you're not being honest with your customers. And that oftentimes creates issues for organizations when there's a lack of honesty. Sometimes you have to also understand there are other things at play. There could be, I know they're not as relevant anymore, but NDAs involved. There could be operations through federal governments and through other countries where we have to abide by certain laws for reporting. That is massively important. So you're not only thinking about reporting to customers, you're thinking about reporting to the governments that we operate within, the countries that we operate within. How do we report to them? What are their standards? What are their obligations? Things like that. All of this factors in to cyber threat intelligence. And it's a part of our responsibility, our duty to do the best that we can while being honest and truthful, while staying in with laws, regulations, and obligations. Marion, I think incidences that occur can impact travel. Yeah. Oh, yeah. That is always a big concern. Marriott puts people first. That is the most important thing that I have seen. I've been working there for about like 4 months, 5 months. And the most important thing is like making sure if anything ever happened, how do we protect customers? How do we put people first? How do we drive the understanding that we want to be supportive of people's desire to see the world? We don't want them to be afraid. And that is so huge right now. Being afraid to go to hospitals or go to certain schools or travel around the world because of not only physical implications like global conflicts, physical conflicts in the world, but cybersecurity issues. How many people are always like, well, I'm not connecting to the hotel internet. Who knows what's on there? What about all the stuff that happened at DEF CON and Black Hat? I saw a really cool story. If you remember the name of the social media personality that talked about it, really, really cool guy, long black hair with a beard, but that doesn't narrow it down at all. He talked about a story about discovering a physical access device at DEF CON, where this guy was targeting DEF CON employees, not Network Shock. I think he was on the call. I'll look it up later. But he was describing how he caught the gentleman because he was plugging in USB devices in multiple areas and creating network access points so that not only employees, but also customers of DEF CON would be affected. And he did it because he wanted to get revenge against DEF CON employees, whether it be, personal reasons or not being able to do a talk. Yeah, if somebody can look up that guy, that would be fantastic. But I digress. Understanding that reporting is so huge, and you're not only thinking about, technical reports, you're also thinking about reporting to your customers as well as leadership and the PR implications. These all fall within the realms of cyber threat intelligence. The 3 disciplines. I'm sad now because I just watched that podcast and it's bugging me what that guy's name is. And I see him all the time. Thor. What's his name? The pirate guy. If somebody shouts it out in the chat, I'll say it. Anyways, so there's a lot of ways to pirate software. Yes. Thank you. Pirate software. Thor. He was the one that discovered the guy at DEF CON. That's where that story came from. Really cool podcast. Definitely go check out pirate software. Not sponsored. A lot of ways to do cyber threat intelligence. So you have a ton of different processes. Now we're getting into the processes. These processes oftentimes combine incident response and intelligence. We have the one over on the left here. That's a screen grab from Flashpoint. Flashpoint's a phenomenal organization if you go check those out. But you can tell very distinctly that it is driven especially by intelligence. In the center, we have one that's from a newer organization called Heavy AI. They're coming from a more IR and business strategic related model. So not bad. And then over on the far right, we have Sentinel-1 with their own unique threat intelligence lifecycle and process. They've covered literally everything. Like that's like everything, right? And they're especially great when you combined intelligence and IR. But I created my own, and I wanted to make it different in a lot of ways to showcase where some gaps are with the current state of the cyber threat intelligence process. So here is my cyber threat intelligence process. Before I go on, question. How do your employees report suspicious activity? Ticketing. So ticketing services are the most important thing that an organization can have. One of the most popular ones in the world is going to be Jira. Love it or hate it. I actually love it. I'm probably in the minority when it comes to saying you love Jira. Exactly. If there's no ticket, where is the ticket? One of my old bosses used to say, did you make a Jira ticket? And that has never left my brain ever. So I've become a big fan of ticketing services, especially Jira. And Jira I find is really good because it plays pretty nicely with other tools, especially security tools, especially threat intelligence tools, which is shocking when you compare it to some other ticketing tools. I'm not going to name names, but Jira is pretty good. Got to make a ticket, absolutely, for reporting mechanisms. That's the way to go. So employees can do ticketing. What you'll find is there's typically a portal that you can create. So you're going to work with a little bit of like web DevOps team. They'll create a portal that submits the ticket. On the back end, it will create a Jira ticket for that particular team. So whether it's, threat hunt, SOC, incident response, vulnerability management, threat intelligence, of course, or even some other IT teams. So, general help desk tickets, things like that. Jira will be operating on the back end, and Thrunt too. Yeah. Thrunt too. If you're not thrunting, what are you doing? If you're not thrunting, honestly. But ticketing is operating in a variety of different ways, but typically you'll have, a very customer friendly portal. And on the back end, you'll have your ticketing service like Jira. Do you ever delve into malware analysis? Yes. So with malware analysis, typically what you're doing is you are operating in the tactical discipline. So it'll be both proactive as well as reactive. You'll often get malware samples from a variety of sources, most popular being things like VirusTotal or Joe Sandbox, things like that. Polyswarm's good too if you're like the competition. You're getting these malware samples from a variety of open source and proprietary, and then you're looking at what it does, what it's capable of. You're looking for unique signatures. You're looking for what language it's programmed in. You're looking for strings, all that type of stuff. That's going to fall under the tactical discipline for malware analysis. Now, a lot of people, and this is going to be completely dependent on your organization or, your public sector or your government or wherever you work. Some people will create separate teams solely for that type of stuff. Sometimes it's going to fall under insider threat. Sometimes it's going to fall or like e-discovery, whatever you want to call your forensic analysis team. If you have one of those, that's pretty serious in terms of maturity scales and maturity models. That's going to be pretty serious if you have one of those. That is sometimes where it's set, but it can be put within cyber threat intelligence as well, which I have done. So you will get those tools, you'll get those exploits, you'll get that piece of malware, you'll analyze it both in terms of what they call dynamic malware analysis or static malware analysis. The names have technically changed, been updated slightly, but the basis that you need to know is static is going to be physical direct understanding of the object itself when it's not in motion, when it's not operating, when it's not in play. So you're looking at strings, you're looking at the language it's written in, you're looking at whether it was set up as a macro, if it was an executable, or if it was what kind of deliverable it was, things like that. And then your dynamic malware analysis, almost like fuzzing, but for bad guys. You're putting it into IDAPRO, Ollie Debug, you're putting it into a variety of different tools, hitting play, stopping and starting, taking snapshots of virtual environments, stopping and starting the piece of malware so that you understand what it does, what it affects, what processes were affected, Where did it drop? Did it drop anything else? Things like that. That's all going to fall under tactical if your company does it that way. They could also put it under your SOC or CERT. They could also put it under your threat hunt team. That's one of the more, I wouldn't say niche, but that's definitely one of the more interesting roles that you can get within cybersecurity that can sometimes fall within CTI. Because I've done it when I was a cybersecurity analyst, when I was a threat hunter, when I was a cyber threat intelligence analyst. Like, I've done it in every single role, and I've seen it done in other roles. So it's however your organization wants to do it. And if you're passionate about it, say, hey, why don't we do it for this team? Or can I move to this team if that's what you want to do? Great question, though. Thank you so much, Kyle. Oh, Monty, actually. And then Kyle for the ticketing explanation. Thank you, guys. So a lot of ways to do CTI. Let's get into the process that we're here to understand. The one that I've made that I think is going to drive the future of the cyber threat intelligence process. This is my cyber threat intelligence process. We start at the top with threat planning. The understanding that, we have to know what sources we want to bring in, what type of threat intelligence we want to ingest, what sector does our business operate in, if we're government, or what country we operate in. Are we global? Are we not? Do we work in one particular nation? What nations do we work in? Everything being understanding that there's purpose and direction behind what we do, the overall threat plan. Then we get into ingestion and analysis. This is also where AI is going to sit. We'll get into that, I think, on the next slide. Ingesting, we bring in everything both through automation, wherever possible. Automate your capabilities, bringing in your threat intelligence feeds to your databases and platforms and analyzing it, enriching it, understanding that it's going to feed into your production and other automations. But you're analyzing it, you're enriching it, you're understanding it, and that's going to drive everything else that you do. How you bring it in, what you're bringing in, and why. Automation and production. Now, we're already automating our feeds, but like I said a million years ago, if you're bringing in all of this intelligence and you're sitting on it in a database or platform, what are you doing? Where is it going? What is it driving? It's got to be automated to other things. It's got to be driving your security tools, your capabilities, everything that you're doing. It has to be sent somewhere so that it can support other teams outside of just letting, leadership know what's going on and what you're seeing. So you're taking all those intelligence feeds, you're automating it, bringing it over to your security tools, as well as production. You're also producing products based on what you're seeing. You're creating new reports and understanding that those reports could be seen by both laymen's, novices, experts, and leadership alike. Integration. Now, we've talked a little bit about this. We have to integrate with other teams, not just through automation, but working collaboratively with security teams and non-security teams. One of the biggest things that threat intelligence needs to start driving more is threat management programs and risk management. This is absolutely vital to the next stages of maturity, and it's not being talked about enough in the cyber threat intelligence space. Threat management programs rely on understanding what threats the organization or your government actually face and why. And then that feeds directly into the risk management programs, the RMPs, the risk management plans of how do we actually deal with it? What is the score that we are aligning with these threats? How are we protecting ourselves and our customers? How are we leveraging capabilities to avoid risk or mitigate risk or control the risk? We have to be integrating with these capabilities and these external teams. These teams are not IT people. They are not cybersecurity for like 9 times out of 10. If you have a threat intelligence or a threat management or risk management team that's also operating in the IT cyberspace, you are super mature, and I congratulate you for it. But most of those teams are going to be external to your information security or your cybersecurity department or whatever, your overarching teams. So you have to integrate with them both through automated processes, whether you get them a dashboard or you integrate with their threat management. There's a ton of really amazing up and coming threat management and risk management tools that also work with regulation, policy, and procedures and laws for the countries that you're working in. This is the future of CTI. Got to integrate with those types of programs. Sharing and feedback. This is another thing that so many cyber threat intelligence processes seem to forget. We're not just collaborating within the team itself. We're not just collaborating within the organization itself. We are collaborating with, hopefully, people around the globe. We are fighting bad guys on a daily basis. Why not share that threat intelligence externally to as many partners as possible? Sure, some of them are going to be competitors. But if your business like survives and lives and dies on whether or not another company gets attacked, that's a terrible moral and ethical dilemma. Nobody operates that way. So why not share what you've learned? Why not help support others? Because my brand is going to be the best that it's going to be because of the products that I give to my customers. I'm going to be better than you because of the things that I've made and the ways that I care about people. I don't want you to be attacked, and I hope you don't want me to be attacked either. So let's work together and defend our sector from threat actors. How do we do that? Fantastic question. The number one source right now, especially for the larger sectors and especially larger companies, but they're opening up to more medium and small businesses, ISACs. A lot of people don't talk about ISACs. ISACs are phenomenal. If you don't know about ISACs, you got to find out if you are in a sector within the ISAC. There are a number of ISACs. There's IT ISAC. I'm a part of our ISAC, so retail and hospitality, MS ISAC, aviation ISAC. There's literally ISACs for everything, but it's important to find ways to be collaborative. Thank you. Yes, I was just about to drop the link. National ISAC members. Fantastic. I was literally just on this page today. It's not going to share my screen, but go check them out. See if your organization can work within a sector and join the ISAC. Auto ISAC's another great one too. You want to be able to collaborate and share that information. ISACs is one of the ways to do it, which is phenomenal. You can also, who here has a certification? Who has probably way too many certifications? All of those certification programs also have sharing capabilities. You can join your chapters. You can join different councils. You can share feedback with other certification opportunities and education opportunities. SANS has they all have councils that you can join or chapters that you can join to share information. So ISACs, councils for certifications. These are all different ways to share. You can also share feedback upstream through your intelligence services. So if you have Recorded Future or you have Flashpoint or TrueStar or whoever, you can share upstream to them as well. And you'll find a lot of organizations are also in those sharing communities as well. So I encourage you to go check out, the link is in the chat, your ISACs. If you're not in an ISAC, I highly recommend it. It's a great way to share information on a global scale to industry and third-party competitors, things like that. Be the reason you saved your competitor. Don't be the reason they failed. Huge. And then finally, you always got to have it. This is probably the only thing on my cyber threat intelligence process that is the same as the other threat intelligence processes: archiving and lessons learned. So first, archiving. We are talking about our databases, our platforms. What's the life cycle on an IOC? How long do you want to keep it for? How long do you want to keep that observable? Like, it's going to be useless eventually, right? You have to come up with these types of answers in order to not only justify spending metrics, things like that, but you're going to want to know like what your team have done and what other teams have done in order to back up and store that type of threat intelligence. So you're always archiving things. You're creating an IOC management program for your database to also save your company money. I don't need to be paying that much to Azure and GCP and Amazon. I need to be able to manage my database in a reasonable form so that my security tools are empowered, my teams are empowered by my threat intelligence, but with the understanding that nobody's suffering from WannaCry, not in its original form. Nobody's suffering from exploits or capabilities from even like 6 months ago, a year ago, potentially. Like, things like that are so important. Setting a plan of action for your IOCs, your databases, your archival programs, things like that is so important to your team. And then lessons learned. So you're backing up all of your reports, what tools you like and didn't like understanding that, like, what processes worked, what didn't, what ports worked, what didn't, did we like this type of mechanism for automation or did we prefer something else? So archiving, controlling your databases, understanding your IOC lifecycle, and then your policies and procedures on understanding the entire cycle, what you've done. All of that will then feed back into your next threat intelligence plan, your next driving solution. So that is my cyber threat intelligence process. And the reason I say it stands out to any other cyber threat intelligence process, because I have integrated automation, AI, and collaborative sharing efforts. Thoughts, comments, questions, concerned. I have thick skin. Feel free to let me know if you see any things. I heard that. Yeah. Now we have like a massive connection. Like, I'm excited to see what Cisco does with all of that, with TrueStar and Splunk. Like, I'm really excited for them. I think that's very cool. Call me. No, I'm just kidding. But I'm really excited to see how that collaborative effort works between TrueStar, Splunk, and Cisco. I think it's going to be really cool. A lot of people worry when acquisitions occur. A lot of people were worried that Mandiant was going to get gobbled up by Google, but Mandiant Google collaboration has been looking pretty awesome. And I'm pretty excited to see the stuff that they're coming out with. So I'm really excited to see what they do as well. Same goes for TrueStar, Splunk, Cisco. Like, I'm so excited to see what happens. Like, that is a powerhouse. Legit. I agree, James. So I'm really excited. When those types of things happen, as long as it's not, an issue of trust or dominance over a particular sector, like, I'm always interested, because if we can improve the tools, the security tools that we use, the platforms that we use, I'm excited to see what you do. So let's see. I'm excited. The reason that my cyber threat intelligence process is different from other cyber threat intelligence processes. I am talking about the future. I am not living in the past. I want to acknowledge what is driving these processes. We have to be open to change. We cannot be so stagnant about what is going on the cyber threat landscape. AI and automation. AI is already being used. If you don't think AI is being used with your threat intelligence databases and platforms, I got news for you. Enriching your feeds through AI is now a thing. It's not a thing of the future. Many organizations are working to increase AI integrations through the enrichment of their feeds. So we're talking about enriching the intelligence you see before you even see it. That's where we are right now. The future is going to be how AI can assist translating and improving our automation. That is where we still need help. Because if I need to constantly grab different API keys or create different connectors, like that's great, but tell me a better way to do it. I need a better way. And AI is working to help in those types of solutions. But automation is increasing at every capacity. And it's been fantastic. The more tools, the more threat intelligence platforms and databases that have automation capabilities built in to connect to all of our security tools, the better. And I've seen more and more come out with more solutions. OpenCTI recently came out with their Splunk connector. That's exciting. So a lot of really cool, exciting automations are being developed. They're already here. So you gotta get after it. These are phenomenal. This is the driving solution, many of which are already here, and we need to be helping them drive more. Hackers are also using AI. Absolutely. What's really funny is if you're working with a malware analysis team and you're analyzing code, you can look this up. There's a myriad of examples where they failed to remove the clear indicators of AI use on their scripts. It's comically bad. It's hilarious. But if you think they're not working to better their AI integrations as well, you'd be dead wrong. They're absolutely working to integrate AI in better fashion so that they can, and here's where it's terrifying. It's with 0 days. It's with 0 days and 0-day analysis. That is where we are seeing scary implications for the future of AI from a threat perspective. They are getting better at analyzing, okay, we've seen this vulnerability for this particular piece of software. Can we use AI to help us understand or develop the next 0-day vulnerability for this particular software even? And can we create it faster than our competitor threat actors so that we're the number ones making the money on the next big attack? That is huge. That is what's happening right now. I couldn't code to save my life, but I wrote a semi-complex Discord bot entirely with ChatGPT one afternoon. Nice, dude. Just because you don't like AI doesn't mean you should ignore it. Absolutely true. That is so huge because AI isn't just a tool by bad guys. It isn't just a tool for like big corporations. It's a tool for everyday people to just help your ability. If you're trying to learn how to be a software engineer, a programmer, even just like basic scripting and stuff, AI is so helpful in your education process. You can ask it a number of different things to help you not only improve your own code if you're already a programmer, but use it to teach you how to write that type of stuff. You can have it write it for you and then look up what it's talking about and then make that program better. Just don't copy and paste your AI and push to prod, okay? Especially on a Friday. You do it on a Friday, you're out. But this is what's happening right now with AI. On the vendor side, we use AI all the time, cluster IOCs and build better block lists. Absolutely. Block lists are huge. And it's a great way to create that sort of automated collaboration so that we can build better block lists. So that's fantastic, Michael. So are threat actors using AI to create attacks? Yes. Do I need to elaborate? Also MCT accuracy, find settings that reduce false positives. Absolutely. So how many times are we talking about infrastructure, DevSecOps, DevOps, firewalls even? And there's like number of repeated code, number of repeated like instances of the same types of driving solutions, library calls, API, like AI is helping you fix all of that. So don't be afraid of the future because it's coming whether you like it or not. Got to pick up the pace, but I love the discussion going on in chat. So go check out Michael's, as long as that link is safe. I'm watching you, Michael. As long as As long as that link is safe, definitely AI integration is the way to go. So picking up the pace. The number 2 thing, the future of CTI and why my process is so important. Business risk management. Driving the understanding that everything that we do drives threat management. It drives risk management. It correlates directly to business impacts now more than ever. It's got to be some of the forefront of the work that we do within CTI, and not enough people are talking about it. We have to be the ones to drive that solution so that we are reporting on it and people understand. Supply chain from the Russia-Ukraine war was insane and devastating. So many people were affected and it wasn't talked about enough. So driving business risk management is the future of CTI. And then finally, collaboration. I have been talking about this a lot, so I don't need to go into more depths, but your ISECs, your councils, join VetSec. It's fantastic. Get out there, collaborate, work with one another. Let your product speak for itself, but don't let your competitor fall because you didn't say something when you saw something. Speak up. You can hold all the proprietary information that you want, but if you're the first on the scene of a crime, you're calling the police. You want to help others. That drive is so important. So collaboration is key. Check out the ISECs, check out your councils, check out what chapters you can join if you have any certifications, things like that. Extremely, extremely important. CTI must be adaptive and we must be effective in all areas. So this is how my CTI process is different from others. And it's coming, so let's be ready for it. I've been waiting for this one because I know Michael's going to have something to say. A very interesting topic. And I wanted to include this for a specific reason because a lot of the times, especially with a lot of the mass layoffs that occurred last year in 2023, division occurred amongst security teams. People were losing their jobs in all sectors, but people were losing their jobs in IT and security because leaders had a hard time, whether it was a lack of understanding or a lack of willingness to understand. Why do I need this? What is important? What is significant about this versus other things? And how do I justify any financial backing? That's always a common. If I haven't already justified it by my massive presentation, I'm going to drive it home right now. So challenge number 1, I have a bunch of teams already that already what I think do CTI. Why do I need CTI? Number 1 is always going to be separation of duties. If you have SOC, threat hunt, vulnerability management, IT teams, they're all doing threat intelligence. That is a massive waste of time and it's costing you hundreds, if not millions of dollars. Why not reinvest that into a proper cyber threat intelligence team that can drive unique solutions and operate within that space? That's going to save you way more money than your threat hunters or your SOC team constantly Googling the latest IOCs or threat actors when they should be responding to tickets or hunting against what's going on in your network. That is so important. Why you need it, that is so important. Having that separation of duties. If you have a unique team that you can build, that is going to be more, it's also going to be more genuine to your business, your sector, where you operate in, than it's going to be if you outsource it. Like outsourcing it, I hope that you're doing it for the right reasons, but if you can build an internal team, it's going to be better because it's going to be unique to your organization. Outsourcing it is good too if you have the money, but sometimes that can be costly. So if you can build an internal team, let's say you have some threat hunters or some SOC analysts that have a passion for threat intelligence. Why not give them that opportunity? Create a unique team. So I love a lot of threat intelligence, and this is huge too. Cyber threat intelligence as a service, massively growing field, great field, really amazing companies that are doing great work. But at the same time, if you can gain value by building your own team, I highly encourage you to consider it. So 2 ways, 2 different solutions, but you absolutely need cyber threat intelligence in your organization. And you're going to find it's going to be better support to your customers. You're going to have better support to your customers because the information is going to be unique to your organization, to your customers, to your leadership, to your sector, to your business goals. It's going to be far better. Whether you outsource it through cyber threat intelligence as a service or you build a unique team, hopefully a unique team to your organization. But either way, you're going to have a better solution if you separate it out and you have that team designated to do that. Challenge 2, how do I track metrics? How do I provide validation to prove the value of cyber threat intelligence? This is a huge question with a surprisingly shocking answer. Your tools and your personnel all get better at what they do when they are informed of what is going on in the cyber threat landscape. Knowing what's happening globally is so important to what they do on an everyday basis. And like the previous answer, if I'm sitting looking up virus total and not answering tickets, then tickets aren't getting answered. But I still need that information. You prove the worth of CTI by showing the collaborative and supporting efforts that your threat intelligence team drives to all your other security teams, as well as your threat and risk management teams. It provides that capability and it enriches your tools and empowers your tools to be better. More alerting, more alarming, more defense is going to provide that depth of security that you've never seen before. Also, reporting in general. If your leadership doesn't understand what's going on in the cyber threat landscape, you're doing them a disservice. They need to know what's happening. I will make 100 PowerPoints and I will explain every single major cybersecurity incident, and I will let leadership take the full credit for it, as long as I know that they are using it and they are empowering other teams and keeping people safe. Because that's the most important thing, is keeping people safe and being people first. That's so important. And then that reporting provides visibility. How many threat intelligence analysts do we have in the chat? Like, I talk with CISOs and BISOs, risk managers, other leadership on a daily or at least weekly basis, sometimes monthly for higher up people. But my face is known, and your cyber threat intelligence team's faces will be known. They're going to be the people that provided that insight to things that are happening on a global scale that nobody else is talking about. That visibility is going to be that support. And then metric tracking tickets is going to be that final solution. So if you're doing things like reporting or creating automations for security tools, you're going to have metrics. You're going to have not only metrics for tickets for your own cyber threat intelligence team, but it's going to impact the tickets of your SOC and CERT, your threat hunt, your vulnerability management. I'm not saying cyber threat intelligence takes credit for all the work the other teams do, but we build them up so that they can do their job better. Their metrics are impacted by our metrics. And that is where you show the value of cyber threat intelligence. And finally, how do I protect my organization from cyber threats that I don't yet know about? And the answer is developing or investing in cyber threat intelligence, because we are so proactive. We are on the forefront. Like I said before, we are the scouts driving those solutions, those investigations, those reporting. We are looking towards the future, and then we are bringing it to you so that it can be invested in other teams. So investing in your cyber threat intelligence teams is an investment in your business. and it will drive solutions that you can track. Finally, the number one question that I get as a mentor especially when they see that I now work in the cyber threat intelligence space as a leader, like, how do I transition to cyber threat intelligence? It's got like the only other few like cybersecurity work roles that had that same sort of like nuance. Sometimes GRC, things like that. Like, people get very weary of what they think are niche work roles in cybersecurity. Like, oh, I can't do it. I don't have the experience. I don't have the background. Bull. I highly encourage introspection when that is your thought process. So the number one thing that I see is experience. People say, well, I don't have experience. Okay. Maybe you don't have experience. If you have no work experience, okay, then you have no work experience at all. Then you should be looking at internships within cyber threat intelligence or junior level opportunities. Do you know how many junior level work roles that I've seen this year alone? We're not even done with the year for cyber threat intelligence, like hundreds, and they go fast. They go so fast. And I say this knowing full well that was not the case 1 year ago, and it was not the case 2 years ago. Going back to when I transitioned from active duty to the private sector, there was like virtually no junior work roles and some internships. But here's the thing. If you have work experience within cybersecurity or IT, you actually probably have cyber threat intelligence experience more so than you think. A number of the tools and capabilities that I've already talked about, Jira, talking about like working with red team and purple team, talking about working with SOC and CERT, like all of these things are filtered by cyber threat intelligence and filter back into cyber threat intelligence. So it's all about talking about how your experience worked back and worked forwards to cyber threat intelligence. So most people that I end up talking to that have cybersecurity experience have some CTI experience. They just didn't know it. Nobody really has experience in cybersecurity, much less niche inside of it. Our little secret. Can we get to, I need a special role for Michael Smith as troll. I'm a GRC pen tester. I just applied to a junior CTI analyst. We'll see if I can, God, good. You guys are ridiculous. But that's good because that's exactly what I'm talking about. Being in pen testing and GRC has influences within CTI more so than you think. You have that experience. You just aren't seeing it from a CTI perspective. Government, military, government IT backgrounds, people that are working in the public sector. So many of them come to me like, all right, well, I'm transitioning out of my government job. I don't have any CTI experience. Have you ever done reporting? Have you ever created products to report about an IT or security issue? That right there is cyber threat intelligence experience. That's what I do on a daily basis. Working in that space gets you some of the most experience that I found, especially in the military. If you're working in IT, in signal, in military intelligence, in cyber, in many different roles, you're presenting a lot of situational awareness and understanding for ideas that need to be reported up. Question over in the chat. Do you have any good resources on STIX and TAXII? And could you give us a quick overview? Brother, I'm running out of time. I apologize. I would, if they tell me I can talk for longer than the next 3 minutes, I'll do so. I have resources. I just can't get into it because I'm running low on time. But all you need to know about that is those are mechanisms for translating IOCs, TTPs, your threats into your security tools and your capabilities and using it across different tools. So that's how you do it. TAXII is the mechanism for moving that stuff a lot of the times, and STIX is a format. Okay. But there's a number of different formats. I would be here for another hour if I got into that. But I highly encourage investigation into that. School, especially if you're a veteran, you should have education abilities. You can use your education for a lot of different programs and some certifications. If you're transitioning, for the love of God, check out SkillBridge program. There are so many opportunities in SkillBridge. Go check out opportunities for certifications and degrees within cybersecurity. And there are so many great ones. I don't have time to list them all. I did MSSA. It was fantastic. Go check them out. Go check out your opportunities for schooling and personal. You can track global issues. Nobody says you can't try these tools. MISP is open source. MISP is one of the tools we talked about today. Go try out MISP. Go check it out. Go spin up a database. Go see what it does. Ingest some feeds. Go play with it. There are opportunities to do these types of things. And then finally, seek out mentorship. Get after it. Come join VetSec especially if you're a veteran. I also work with other organizations for mentorship. Seek mentorship. I will happily help you. If you add me on LinkedIn, I will help you out too. But go seek out mentorship. Go play around with tools. Track things on a level that you're. So last chance. I got like a minute left. Guys. Last chance questions. I apologize. I didn't even think I was going to make it 2 hours, but this has been phenomenal. So drop your last chance questions in the chat. Feel free to ping me on LinkedIn, add me on LinkedIn, join VetSec if you're a veteran, join the Slack. Feel free to shoot me an email. But especially if you want to get a hold of me real quickly, LinkedIn is going to be the easiest way to go. I was told I'm a social media presence. I didn't even realize that, but apparently I am. Feel free to add me. I'm so grateful for the opportunity to talk about the cyber threat intelligence process and cyber threats intel overall. So absolutely. Thank you so much for being here. My name is Corey Nenno, representative of VetSec, but proud speaker for VetSecCon 2024. Thank you so much, guys. And I will catch you on the next one. Cheers, everyone. Have a great rest of your convention. I'll talk to you soon.